G'day everyone, Gus Worland here from Gotcha4Life, and if you can see everyone a bit like the Brady Bunch on the screen, we've got Tessa from RAMPH, we've got Adrian from Landcare, and we've got Tim Hodgson, my CEO of Gotcha4Life. And the next 15 or 20 minutes will be a chat about the three organisations and how that we've jumped into bed together in all the right ways to try to build mental fitness amongst our community, especially in rural areas of Australia. So welcome to everyone. And Tessa, ladies first, please tell everyone what RAMPH is all about.
So we're all about connecting rural people to the help that they need for their mental health. So we're very lucky to have 20 RAMPH coordinators located right across rural New South Wales. And their job is to really provide people with that local and tailored advice on how to get help when they need it, because it is really tough to put your hand up and say, I need help, but then the next step is actually finding that help. And sometimes in a rural area that can be quite tricky because we don't have all the types of services that you have in Sydney and Melbourne. So our coordinators work really hard to, give people an option that suits, works for them, because, talking to your GP, that's a really good first step, but sometimes, you might need to go and find a psychologist and, they can help find a good one in your area, whether that be face-to-face or even online in the times that we're in now. So yeah, that's RAMPH in a nutshell. And we also provide a lot of education, because I think we can't only, be the only eyes and ears out there. Rural people are really good at supporting each other and pulling together. So we give them those skills to really look out for their mates and know when to take action and how to have that conversation.
I've been a very proud ambassador now for a little while, and I love what you guys do. And the fact that Gotcha4Life now is working with you in Landcare excites me a lot. How are you doing out in the country at the moment? Because during the fires and the floods and the drought before that, and then COVID, everyone seemed to be focused, but COVID now has taken its own strength into the city. So are you still feeling as loved as you did sort of before Christmas?
Look, the media attention has died down. The drought's still definitely well and truly out there. There's not a lot of paddocks that look like the one behind me in New South Wales at the moment. So there are communities that still are battling that same issue that, really I think kicked off the attention on rural areas was the severe drought that they were going through. And obviously then we had bushfires and now COVID. So it is really tough, and I think there are a lot of businesses in particular that were just starting to find their feet post the fires, and that's when COVID hit. And so, it really does bring on a new meaning of resilience, and it's a huge expectation just to expect rural communities to stand up and keep trudging on. And I think that's what hopefully we'll do our bit to help with this partnership is give that communities that little hand up to really, support each other and start to see the, positive light and build their mental fitness as we keep saying.
Yeah, exactly right. And Adrian, I'll bring you in now, mate. Our relationship has got sealed last Christmas, but we've been in discussions for a few weeks before that. It's lovely to have Gotcha4Life, RAMPH and Landcare together. Could you please explain to our people watching and listening now what exactly Landcare do?
Thanks, Gus, and absolutely, I'm thrilled to be part of this partnership. It's, I think it's a perfect relationship that we've got developing. Look, Landcare in New South Wales, we're the peak body for the Landcare community in New South Wales and the state. So Landcare is a 30-year-old iconic Australian movement, was set up in the late 80s. When both the farmers and the conservationists realized that they needed to join forces to do something about the state of our environment. Since that time, 30 years ago, the movement has grown from strength to strength, and now we estimate there are about 60,000 land carers aggregated in about 3,000 groups across New South Wales, and they undertake all sorts of works depending on where they're situated, ranging from protecting biodiversity and threatened species all the way to working on soil erosion, pest and weed control, sustainable farming. So it's all about local communities taking ownership of, what are their issues at that local level. And so they bring that intimate knowledge of that local landscape, They have enormous amounts of social capital within their communities. They live and they work together. Many of these people have been there for many, many years. So we leverage that social capital to get things done on the ground. And we as a state peak body here in Sydney, we work on their behalf. We work with our major stakeholders to lift the awareness of the Landcare movement within our general community. We attract more funding, we give them more resources, we increase the capacity so that Landcare can do more on the ground. And it's an enormous task. I mean, we talked about bushfires, which has, you know, caused an enormous amount of damage across the state. But before that, we had the droughts. And before the drought, we had other issues, you know, pests and weeds and all sorts of other issues that are never ending. So the work never stops. But, you know, we land carers, we're very passionate about our environment. We love our communities, we love our farms, and we'll just continue doing the work that we do.
The traditional Australian Aussie person out in the bush, that you just don't quite get that in the city, how much I love going even an hour and a half out of the city sometimes to find just the biggest hearts and just the most really good feeling of a sense of community. They're the people that that you and Tessa are working for.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they're the salt of the earth, these people who are just so in touch with their, not only their environment and their farms, but their local communities. Highly passionate. They give up their time. Remember, Landcare is made up of volunteers, and the amount of volunteer hours that goes into Landcare is just phenomenal. They are supported by about 100 paid staff across the state, and we call local and regional Landcare coordinators. But the vast majority of Landcarers are just volunteers who give up their very precious time to do something for their communities and for the environment. And as we've heard from Tessa, you know, they're really under pressure, and they can, you know, they really need a hand from us, and we must do everything we can to really to help them along.
Couldn't agree with you more, and that's a perfect sort of segue over to Tim Hodgson, who's my CEO at Gotcha4Life, and how committed we are in particular, Tim, even before COVID, to make sure that we had a real rural focus this year for Gotcha4Life. How excited are you that we've been able to jump in bed with RAMPH and Landcare?
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it takes me back, Gus, to our conversation probably October, November last year, when we said, right, 2020 is the year where we're going to focus on rural and regional. And as you say, that was really because of the drought that was, you know, in the news so frequently then, and you had that trip out with Triple M then to the parks and a few other areas, and witnessing it firsthand. And a lot's happened since then, a huge amount. But I mean, Gotcha4Life on our own, we can do what we can do in advocating for preventative mental health programs, in raising funds, in building capacity, the capacity of some great initiatives out there. But I think our delivery is really about local relationships and being in a community and staying there. And so to be able to partner with Landcare and RAMPH, two big organisations, powerhouses, who have a huge amount of knowledge and respect of the local government, for instance, but also then on a granular level have so many local members in local communities who can feed back what's happening on the ground and can support us and welcome us in and enable us not just to bring in a program, but to stay there for years to come, build local advocates. I think really that's what, I don't think we have that strength of delivery without organisations like RAMPH and Landcare to help us deliver on the ground. I think it's very exciting.
I think with RAMPH in particular, Tessa, coming back to the town all the time, not just lobbing in and having your weekend or a week, or having the kids or the blokes or the ladies go through a program, turning up every 3 months. We did that in Tumut, and about the third time I turned up, which was sort of nearly a year after the first time, they went, okay, all right, you care. We'll listen now. And I was like, what do you mean? I've cared right from the start. They said, yeah, but we've seen this all before. And So it's turning up all the time and building that relationship is going to get the trust required to have the conversations we need, that really vulnerable, open and honest conversation.
Yeah, and you can't underestimate trust in a rural community. If you don't have trust, it just doesn't go anywhere. So I guess that's what we're hoping to bring to this partnership, is that we are that trusted source on the ground already in our rural communities. Our coordinators are very well known. You know, they know who's who in that community to go speak to get something up off the ground. So we're hoping that by bringing that, as well as obviously being the mental health experts, or, you know, where to go on where to get help, you know, we can really help this partnership along so that you guys can come in and really do your thing around focusing on opening up that conversation. Because, you know, once you do get people to listen, telling your own story is so valuable in terms of getting people to recognise that it is okay to reach out and get help. So hopefully between us and Landcare, because I know they have a huge network as well, we can really create a really strong foundation for everything that Gotcha4Life does, you know, in that week or 2 weeks, to be sustainable and continue that message along, even, you know, well beyond when you guys have to head back, because we'd love you to live out here, but we know you have to spread yourselves across the state to make sure that everyone can hear that really important message.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember Adrian, Tim mentioned that Triple M and I went out in my last couple of weeks of breakfast radio, and it was so great. Went out to the Parks, Orange area, and there was a night where I'm on radio in the mornings with a bloke called Moon Man, and he's a comedian. So they had a night and they set it up in the pub. Okay, Gus Worland's going to talk a little bit about mental health, and then the Moon Man will do his half an hour. And I thought, everyone's here for him. And there was a beer garden. Everyone was having a smoke and a drink, guys and girls everywhere. And I got on and I said to Moon Man, I said, I'm going to really fire up the crowd for you, mate. I'm not going to be a great warm-up artist for you. And he said, mate, go and do your thing. So I went out and spoke for about 20 minutes. You could not hear a pin drop. There were like sponges, the girls and the guys all together, because they'd lost someone, or they had someone they had in their mind as I was talking about being open, honest and vulnerable. They were like sponges wanting to learn what it took to perhaps be a better boss, a better dad, a better boyfriend, a better husband. And the girls were just so into supporting their blokes. And then as soon as I finished, everyone sort of got up, and Moon Man sort of came on, and people were getting drinks, and a bloke went out for a fat. It was amazing. I thought it was all about the comedy, but if you build something and it's respectable and they feel that it's the right thing, then people are ready to hear the message right now.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a thirst for knowledge, of this sort of knowledge out in the bush, because, you know, the communities do realize, and individual people do realize that, you know, they're vulnerable because of all the pressures that they've been under for a very, very long period of time, and they've seen the tragedies around them. You know, they've either people they know or even family members who have been affected by mental health. And, you know, and it's not difficult to be affected by mental health if you're a farmer and you've been struggling to make a living, you know, after many, many years of not being able to raise a crop or having to sell your stock because you've got no feed. And then the bushfires come through, and now COVID-19. So the local Chinese has to close shop, and the RSL club and the bowling club. So that social fabric, you know, is lost in these communities. So when we you know, told our communities about this new relationship that Landcare was forming with Gotcha4Life, they all got very, very excited, because they could see how powerful it would be for the Landcare movement to use its network, and now with RAMPH, of course, coming on board, to be able to channel the Gotcha4Life services, you know, the mental health training and the mental health resilience that you want to build in these communities. So I think the, you know, what we're doing together is phenomenal. I think it's just a wonderful combination of, you know, strengths and synergies of different movements coming together. And look, I think we're going to be finding our work going forward very, very rewarding, and very enjoyable, because we're going to not only be doing a lot of good, but we're going to be meeting some absolutely wonderful people out in the bush. It's going to be great.
The character's out in the bush, Tessa. You're a bush lady, if you like. You've spent most of your life out there. You've got a hubby out there behind you working the sheep at the moment. Very special breed of people, the Aussie people from the land, aren't they?
Yeah, no, they're a tough bunch, and getting them to talk can be a bit tricky at times. But yeah, once they do open up, they really do, I guess, give you the time of day, and they'll always be there for their mates, and that's usually why, you know, they'll come in and listen. It'll be about supporting their family, supporting their mates, but hopefully they take a bit on board for themselves as well.
Yeah.
Because you can't help others if you're not helping yourself. So that's the message that we try and push through to everyone. But yeah, I think particularly the blokes out here will really enjoy your perspective and your story and the way it's shared, because yeah, it's definitely one worth listening to.
Oh, thanks, Tessa. And something we're trying to do, Tim, is sort of talk about physical fitness and mental fitness rather than mental health, because mental health does have a bit of a negative connotation. And I sort of say when I'm talking to people, give yourself a mark out of 10 for your physical fitness, mark out of 10 for your mental fitness. And if it's not 8, 9 or 10 out of 10, then you've got something to work on. The exercises for physical fitness are easy. You eat less, you eat better, you move more. What are the exercises for mental fitness? And I think if we talk that way, Tim, we're more likely to be able to get through and just sort of take away any sort of science or any sort of medical thing and just talk about things that everyone can understand a bit easier.
Yep, I think so. I think language is really important. Sometimes it gets overlooked a little bit. And over the years, mental health in itself has grown this stigma, and we don't want to engage with it because we don't think we're necessarily the ones with poor mental health. I mean, even saying mental health, you think of the poorer end of the spectrum, but really it should be a simple spectrum from, you know, very healthy to less healthy, like your physical. But we've lost that a little bit. Mental fitness, I think, gives us a little bit more of a tangible and aspirational sense. In fact, you know what? I'd love, in a sense, to get rid of the mental piece altogether, because everything's physical, whether it's chemicals or whether it's muscular. You know, we go to the physio here for our pulled hammy or bicep or whatever it might be. But when it becomes the mental side and it's maybe more chemical, we don't quite know how to look after it. But they're both invisible. And so I think it just gives something a bit more tangible. Maybe it gives us the opportunity to get people talking about it, because as Tessa mentioned earlier, it's hard for particularly guys to start that conversation. But once you find the space, the safe space to be able to start the conversation, it kind of flows, and you start to build that emotional muscle that we're talking about as part of mental fitness. You know, the ability to recognize your emotions, verbalize them, maybe spot them in other people so that you can open up and really check in on people properly. And that's kind of what we're talking about. And that's what our programs are designed to deliver, which leads us to the preventative end of the mental health spectrum, if you like. How do we build this mental fitness as individuals and communities to help us support each other earlier on? You know, when we face battles and adversities or wake up with emotions that we haven't experienced before, how do we make sure that we can open up and talk and or listen and be there for our friends or loved ones before it spirals into an area that, you know, can lead to a crisis. And that's where I think mental fitness purely as the language can be quite powerful.
Tessa,
it's really important for...
Sorry, you go, Tessa, please.
I was just going to say that's really important in terms of the language that we use with rural people, because I think they do feel like they're always told they're struggling or things are tough. You know, they do have to get through a lot, but there's plenty of really positive things about living in a rural community, but we just have to be a little bit fitter in terms of our mental fitness, because we do have to face more challenges than those in the city. So it's just about being, fitter mentally to take those on rather than being diagnosed with an illness or being unwell. That's not what this whole partnership is about. It's just showing how you can improve your mental fitness and how that's, you know, particularly helpful when things do get tough. So yeah, we really support that message that Gotcha4Life has, that it is about growing that muscle, and it isn't about illness and being unwell.
the Aussie stereotype is very much sort of built around the bloke in the bush too. And it's something we're very proud of. Lots of movies about it, lots of those type of skills, if you like, people see as very manly. So when I talk to blokes, I said, 85% of it is still the same. I love being an Aussie bloke. I love walking into a bar overseas with my accent and people straight away, there's a positivity that comes from it. I've got family out in the Hay region who are just the best people in the world. They'll do anything for anyone. They're so lovely. But trying to get my uncle, who's now 70 odd, to have a conversation of gravity or anything outside of his work, the weather, and are we going to play tennis or golf today? It just drives me insane. So I'm trying to say to him, it's actually the manliest thing you can do is to be open, honest.
Yeah.
It's brave to be open, honest, and vulnerable. It's not brave to keep pushing those emotions down, Uncle Alan. Please, I've learned stuff, and I love you, and I want you to learn that stuff. It's not easy though. Have you got lots of blokes in the country that you can you've got your own Uncle Allans, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, there's plenty of Uncle Allans out there. And it is that piece around masculinity. That's kind of understanding that just because opening up and talking or getting help or sharing how you're feeling, that doesn't detract from, your masculinity and how you define yourself as a man. But that's a really tough conversation to have with someone who, if you don't feel comfortable or you don't even know how to raise that. But I think, particularly the Tomorrow Man workshops gives you that permission to have that conversation. I think that's, even just opening it up, that's, just the small difference that it can make, so that the Uncle Allans, they may not completely change their definition of what being a man is, but they just might be that little bit more open to hearing, different versions of, conversations and things beyond cricket and golf.
Yeah, the man rules have been built so long ago. Surely we can open up the lid now, Adrian, and go, you know what? That bit doesn't quite suit anymore. So we're going to replace it with a slightly different version of it. And that's what all we're talking about here, is making some subtle changes and giving the emotional muscle or the words to start the conversation so you don't worry alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, culturally, the identity of manhood has been associated with, the stoic approach, suck it up and just get on with it. Be brave, be manly, be strong, and not talk about these things. So, through school and our upbringing, this is what we've always been taught. And now we know it's very wrong, because we need to be vulnerable. We need to actually show, what we're feeling, because the alternative is a lot worse. So I've come across many Uncle Allans, both in my family and in my life. So I really love the approach that Gotcha4Life are taking, and that they're talking about it. They're taking a preventative approach, and it's all about, let's get together as friends, as people who love each other, and let's talk about how we're feeling. And, we're all feeling pressure. We're all feeling a bit lost with COVID-19. We're all feeling a bit unsure what the future holds. We've got all sorts of pressures. But if you share these challenges, the burden starts getting a bit lighter. You start feeling a bit better because you're opening up and you're talking to people who you can trust. So I think it's a wonderful program. I think it's just tremendous.
The thing that Tim and I love about the program partners and what we're doing at Gotcha4Life is to have people like RAMPH and Landcare to be able to help us deliver it. So we really believe we've got the best programs, the biggest hearts, and we're out there, like so many other people, trying our best to get that suicide rate down to absolutely zero. And we know that's going to be a tough ask, but we've got to have a crack. But to have RAMPH and Landcare and all your connections, and as you said earlier, Tessa, someone trusted in the community to say, hey, give these guys a go, rather than, us blowing in and saying we've got all the answers. It's more of like, come along and see it and just see how the night develops. And as you said, Tessa, if you build a safe enough environment for these blokes, even Uncle Alan might, learn something that might make him a better husband or a better dad or a better employee, or just not worry alone so much, because that's what they've been sort of taught to do.
That's right. Even the smallest change can make a really big difference. So if that comes from a workshop that they go along to, then that's, I think, what we're all here to achieve.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming along. Just want to give you all a last minute or so just to explain, you know, how excited you are and what you hope to achieve out of this relationship, which is so new but so exciting. And I can see us being very much a part of it moving forward. I think we lost Adrian somewhere. Maybe my time was up. But please have a crack, Tess, and then from Tim's point of view as well.
We're really, really excited to take, I guess, our long-standing partnership with you, Gus, as our ambassador really to the next step, and get you guys out into the rural communities, as well as also promote our new You Got This Mate website. That's, you know, an incredible resource that people, you know, whether you're male, female, or whatever, to use and to really upskill yourself on how to support your mates and what to do if you do need that sort of next step of support. So we're very excited to be on board.
Fantastic. And Tim?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add is that, you know, this is all about long-term and sustainability, I guess. Gotcha4Life is, you know, for life, and RAMPH, Tessa, you got us for life, I'm afraid. This isn't like a 2-year deal. This is about us working with you.
It's a marriage.
It's a marriage. You're not getting rid of us. And so, you know, we want to be there. The message to the communities out there is, once we're in your community, we want to stay there, and we want to keep bringing the partnerships back, and we want to train local people in some of the programs that we deliver, so that, you know, this is long-term sustainable change. If we're talking about changing cultures and the way people behave, and if we're talking mental fitness, you know, which is just like your physical fitness, you can't just do it in one run. You've got to just keep doing it. It's the whole of life thing. So, yeah. You've got us for life. And thank you very much for jumping in and being a part of it. It's very exciting.
Oh, we're very happy to be here.
Great. Thanks so much, Tessa. Thanks, Tim. And Adrian popped off there. He must have had something pop up. I'm not sure if that was my fault or his fault, but it doesn't matter. He's totally on board, has been now since Christmas, and cannot wait to get involved with RAMPH and also Landcare. Thanks so much for your time, Tessa, and look forward to seeing you in the countryside soon. We cannot wait to start going. Let's get the mental fitness of these Aussie communities up and running.
Yep, let's get started.
See ya.
Cheers, guys.